Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line. You're going to want to write this down. Because the way Google is behaving, we don't know how long we'll be able to be found on the Internet. That telephone listen line number is 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vincent. Thank you. Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
So, Rick, I mentioned this yesterday, and our detractors will say, he's going to say it again. Jeez. Well, it's important, so I need to make mention so you are aware of this. So you were talking for a while about book sales being down and, what's going on. Well, we have the reason. There's a post on governmentslaves.com or GOVT slaves.com. And the title is, and I'm going to go through this quickly because I went through almost the entire list of websites that Google does not want us to visit. The title of this is, quote, bookmark this, over 400 links Google doesn't want you to visit, end quote. Okay, that's the article. And it says that Google is doubling down on preventing people from reaching the searches that they may want to reach. Google is monopolistic, and it says that they really don't deem some of the information that might result from their search engine as fit. They deem it unfit. So what are they talking about? Well, pages that directly contradict well-established scientific or medical consensus. Not fact. Pages that directly contradict well-established scientific or medical consensus. So, or pages that directly contradict well-established historical facts. And they would be unsubstantiated conspiracy theories. So unless a person says, I want the alternative view of, let's say, for example, 9/11, they're going to get the mainstream result, which is, and I'll read it, on the morning of Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, the attacks killed 2,996 people, injured over 6,000 others, and caused at least $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage. Four passenger airliners operated by two major U.S. passenger air carriers, United Airlines and American Airlines, all of which departed from airports in the northeastern United States bound for California, were hijacked by 19 al-Qaeda terrorists. The planes were crashed into the north and south towers, and it says that the towers collapsed within 1 hour, 42 minutes. Including the 47-story 7 World Trade Center tower. So they're saying the planes did it. So that kind of a search will not result in what we're saying is happening, an energy-directed weapon, which caused the buildings to disappear. Because if you look at the bottom of all the rubble, where did the buildings go? So the bottom line of this, Rick, is if you want to know why sales are down, here's what's happened. These are the sites that are blacklisted. You're not going to believe it. Drudge Report, Breitbart, Infowars, Steve Quayle, Mike Rivero's site, What Really Happened, Rents, Blacklisted News, okay, The Daily Sheeple, Mercola, the list goes on and on. It's like that. So we are in what I would say good company because we are blacklisted as well. And we're blacklisted on Republic Broadcasting Network. That's John Stadtmiller's network, because what he does is this broadcast of us today will be carried tomorrow morning between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. So we're the first broadcast of the day on Republic Broadcasting Network. And what he does is he takes verbatim everything that we do here on USA Prepares at GCN, where we originate, including the commercials, everything. That's what he does. And he just tape delay plays it. So he believes that we are all in this together, that we have, the networks are not competing, we are all in this together. And that's why he does this. That's why he plays USA Prepares. Contrast that with ABS, CBS, NBC, Fox. Those guys are fierce competitors. They don't like each other. They would never do this. They would never have two or a broadcast from one network. You know, you wouldn't see a CBS program on ABC. You wouldn't see it. But that's what we do because we don't think the way they do. I don't think we're capable of thinking the way they do. So, to make a long story short, USA Prepares is indirectly on this list because we are on the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube, along with Mike Rivero. That's all that's on the Ron Gibson channel, just USA Prepares and What Really Happened with Mike Rivero.
I could,
he's blacklisted.
I could offer another important piece of insight, and it just came to me this last week. What if we have been invaded by something that is in the process of terraforming the earth over a 20-year program, so that one generation to the next does not really notice it? What if this had to do with the Labyrinth Project, time travel? What if this was something going on in a war between one group of entities with another group? What if China is already further down the road in terms of using AIs to discriminate one internet from another? What if, and I keep going down this line, and the more I explore it, the more data I discover. Now, what's wrong with Google is Gmail. And anybody using Gmail, right now, I strongly recommend that you switch and have a second email address for backup. I have absolutely noticed that I am now being bounced with certain email that I try to correspond with somebody that I had no problem with last month, and this month I couldn't if my life depended on it. I don't know what Linda did, thank you, from Lexington, but I'm now able to get through to her, but I can't with Ellen Downs, my social media in Brisbane. And it's very disquieting. What I'm having to do is have friends now forward my email because of this nonsense of discrimination. And it's going to ramp up in the next 4 months. And when I say that, it will be so bad that this is what Kurzweil is calling the singularity. This is the end of days. It's not going to be doom and gloom and water. It is for your mind and what you believe and what you think and what makes you human to non-human. I remember, let me give you one metaphor example. Democrats and Republicans. At one time, the Democrats and Republicans were at war with each other because the way they wanted America to become. But both were for America. Today, in other words, they had the same goal, but they believed in doing it differently. Now, all of a sudden, we no longer have that kind of a schism. What we have is America and a non-America. How does that work? And why? Globalism is a concept that I think we were on the slots 4x4, and because of the unexpected win of Donald Trump, threw a hitch in the giddy-up. And right now, the amount of gangbanging that I see on that man, I have never seen anything of that intensity with any president in our history. And, Ronald Reagan should have been right at the top of that list as incompetent. Richard Nixon was voted out of office there as an example of the schism. And yet, the Democrats and Republicans back then were still for America. Now, I don't know what's going on because I'm a scientist and I mostly work in the field of nerd. Is that the right word for it? And I know that I don't understand politics and have friends that explain things to me like currency and the concepts of the Fed and the idea of the Rothschilds versus the Rockefellers. Now, there's a difference. I work for Rockefellers. Okay, I work for old man DuPont, actually, who reported. So I was, one tier down, but I actually met old man DuPont. I know, I've been in his home. I played tennis in his backyard. I've been there and done that. There's something else going on here.
Let's talk more about it when we come back. And you mentioned Google, and Google does not seem to be our friend in any way, shape, or form. So, class, if you can avoid Google as your search engine, I suggest you consider doing it. DuckDuckGo, DuckDuckGo.com is a great search engine. Sometimes I read something that I see on the internet. I've got a computer screen in front of me. Actually, I have 3 of them. And I will quote the article. And it'll sound like I don't know how to read. And that's not true. I do know how to read. But what happens is the ads keep plastering over what I'm trying to read. So I need to move up and down the screen just trying to read. I'm looking at what I'm trying to read right now. 3/4 of the screen is covered with ads. And I'd like to read this. I'm going to try. It's about Google. And it's on the dailymail.co.uk. And it says, your Google, this is the quote, headlines. Quote, your Google security system could be spying on you, ! Firm, which means Google, is forced, ads. Firm is forced to apologize to Nest users. Nest, N-E-S-T, that's the product, after admitting that it has a secret microphone built in. Secret microphone. Google has apologized for not mentioning the presence of a microphone in Nest. The tiny microphone is located inside the hub of the security system Nest Guard, N-E-S-T space G-U-A-R-D. The error, quote, unquote, only surfaced when the U.S. firm told users to voice activate the guard. The mic was apparently added with future sound sensor features in mind. So what we have is the control hub of this security system, cameras. You think you're buying a video system. Well, it listens from the control hub. Now, Google didn't tell the customers that bought this that it had this microphone and this we'll call it feature. So when you look, and Google says that it's a mistake. So sorry. Class, it is not a mistake. When a company manufactures a product, they look for every possible thing that they can put on that package that says it does A, B, C, D, E, F. Not only that, G, H, and I, but not only that, you get all these other features. That's what they do. And the number one feature of a security system is the video. The number two feature would be audio. But they didn't remember to tell their customers that it had an audio listening device connected to the internet on its Nest secure alarm system? Really, they expect us to believe that? Now, this is the company that's been embroiled in scandal after scandal after scandal about privacy invasion. So Google is not our friend. It's not our friend. Now, yes, according to this article, it says, quote, yesterday, the web giant, that means Google, insisted that it kept the device secret by accident as it apologized to customers. It kept it secret by accident. I can't believe it. So now we have our smart televisions, those of us who mistakenly bought one, that has a microphone and a camera, right? And we have our security system that has a microphone that listens in. Then we have Alexa and Echo that listen in and report back to all the sounds. Make sure you put that in your bedroom, class. Make sure you put these devices in your bedroom. I can't believe it. It is Big Brother on steroids. Rick, any comments?
Well, he's not my brother. Your big brother, maybe. Google is the algorithms that they're using right now. That's why I use Bing. I don't like Bing either, but, what are you going to do? Are you going to work with Chrome?
No, okay. No. You don't want to use Chrome. And what's wrong with Duck?
So there you are. You're stuck with Thunderbird. Yeah, or Firefox.
No, there's one more.
Tor. Now, Tor is also military. And so all the things that they told you that Tor was encryption and all that is not.
Okay, there's one that you can go to, and it might be a little better. It's called DuckDuckGo. D as in David. DuckDuckGo.com. That might be a better choice. They claim that they don't report on us and store our data. We'll be right back. Class, Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. RichardAllenMiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Rick, so the blacklisted, just a few of the blacklisted sites that YouTube is hammering down on. Health Ranger, Dr. Axe, Dr. Mercola, RT, InfoWars, Project Veritas, let's see, David Icke. I'm just mentioning a few. Standeo. Let's see, Rents, Gerald Celente, Ron Paul Liberty Report, Copwatch, Ron Gibson, and Republic Broadcasting. I mean, just to name a very few. These guys are hammering down hard on those websites, class, that you visit. I know you visit them. We do too. And these are the top 400. It's not all of them, but it's 400 of them that Google does not want you to visit because we don't necessarily follow the consensus, the opinions that most people follow. We are the new news. They are the old dinosaur news. We do everything that we can to tell you the truth. teach you how to think, ferret out the truth. We don't make these things up. We look at things and, based on our own experiences, share our knowledge with you, free of charge. And what you're seeing is that commerce is extremely important to most of these old websites. They want to sell, sell, sell. I was thinking about some of the things that we talk about. For example, I'm going to tell you that I am frustrated, frosted, angry, disappointed with the battery bank that Bruce Kay and I bought from China. They're miserable. Trying to deal with the CIYI battery company in China is an experience that you do not want to have. They have a 5-year warranty, but the warranty is worthless. They will not honor their warranty. I'm telling you straight up, if I had to buy another set of cells for our solar system, I would never deal with CIYI battery company. And people would say, well, you know, just call somebody. Who are you going to call? You going to call the police? You going to call consumer protection? Who are you going to call? No one's interested in the little people. No one's interested in us. If they were interested in us, they would stop these nonstop ads on the internet. They would stop the fraud on the internet. They would stop people from sending me emails telling me that they have pictures of me doing all kinds of things that I've never done, and they can't have pictures because I don't have a camera. And threatening me, and if I don't pay them with Bitcoin, they're going to release information that they don't have. So where are the authorities? Where are these representatives? Where are these agencies that we thought were going to be at our assistance? They're not. It's all about money. Let me give you an example. There are gun shows throughout the country. And I can pretty much guarantee you that just about every attendee at a gun show has a cell phone in his or her pocket. Have you lost your minds? If the other team wants to know who's at that gun show, all they have to do is set up what's called a Stingray. That's a little box with an antenna, and it becomes the local tower. They can set it up in the parking lot, raise this little telescoping antenna. It's not very big, kind of like a walkie-talkie. And they power this device up, and that's the strongest cell unit in the area. So your cell phone will say, I'm looking for a signal. Look, there's one. That's the strongest one. Let me connect with that. Now, your cell phone has a unique ID. Right then and there, they know everyone in that building. They know who you are because your cell phone has an ID that's registered to you. In Virginia, I was at a gun show in Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, many years ago. And the state police were there. And they were in the parking lot writing down, they were doing it the hard way, they were writing down license plate numbers. And then within a day, they had the list of the addresses for that those cars were registered to. And they went to visit them. So what were you doing at the gun show, boy? Really? That's what they were doing 20 years ago. I was there. I saw it. It made the news. It went all the way to the U.S. Congress. It was unconstitutional what they were doing. They had no probable cause. What I'm saying, class, is you are paying for your own privacy breaches. You are paying for these smart devices. I believe if it says Google, I don't want it. If it says Zuckerberg, I don't want it. If it says Microsoft, I don't want it. I use Linux wherever I can because I don't trust those parasites, those peeping toms, those perverts. Do you? So this article that I've been reading from the dailymail.co.uk is, it goes on to say, it's hard to believe Google cares about people's privacy after selling a security product with a secret microphone in it. The revelation that Nest Security contains a hidden microphone is not the first time that Google's smart home devices have come under fire. Last year, a so-called white hat hacker who sets out to do good managed to take control of another man's Nest security device. The white hat then warned about the breach by using the device to speak directly into his home. What I'm saying is a white hat hacker wanted to prove that this Nest device could be hacked it, and started talking to the person in his home through the device, saying, see? Meanwhile, a mother in New York found out that her Nest home monitoring system was hacked by a stranger who started to stalk her 5-year-old son. The stranger quizzed the boy on how he traveled home from school. This is the kind of stuff that's going on. So you're being tracked with your cell phones. If you've got smart sneakers by Nike, you're being tracked by them. If you have a Fitbit, your vitals are being transmitted to the internet. Your boss can look at what your heart rate is and say, well, I can't believe it. She's supposed to be working. Obviously, she's relaxing. Think about that. Or worse. Rick, do you have any comments on this?
How could I comment on that? I mean, I'm experiencing it. Last night, I received from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night, that's a 3-hour period, 12 unsolicited recorded calls. That's beyond anything I've ever had in over a week, and I had it in 3 hours. Now, that means I'm being slammed by something. Why? Well, I was doing radio in New Orleans, and so there it is, an interference inconvenience that is now becoming more than an inconvenience. Your camera and your mic are always on when your computer is on. And if you don't have a piece of tape over your camera when you're not using it, you are being observed. And especially if you're going to a pornography site or a dating site or something related for social media, and your sound, when you unplug your speakers, that does not mean your mic is unplugged. And what you need is a plug that goes in there that is a closed circuit so that it shorts it. And that's it. And that's just a normal computer. Now you move to the smartphones, and, that even when they're turned off, they're transmitting. That's why they want to do a charge on demand so that the constant power availability is given without you having to turn it on and off anymore. You can charge on the fly. The concept of an earth fence, where they put this series of satellites in space around the earth to make it look like something out of Hellblazer, that's exactly what Lockheed's doing. And all of that is using high-end 5G plus technology. And all of that has an LD50 ratio. And my only conclusion now is it's not about inconvenience. It's about, I think we've been invaded.
Rick, I've got a comment about what you said, a technical comment. There's more. It's worse than even that. So if you think that you can shut off let's say you have a notebook computer, and the notebook has a camera and it has a microphone. Electronically, through software, those two devices can be reversed. So electrically, they can be changed so that the microphone becomes a camera and the camera becomes a microphone. Or the speaker can be switched with the microphone. So a speaker, if you experimented with electronics, you could take a speaker and you could talk into a speaker, just as I'm talking to this microphone. And that speaker could be a microphone. And that microphone could be a very weak speaker. Now, I don't recommend you do it because you can damage the microphone by doing it. But what they can do is they can send a code remotely to your PC and flip the connection of microphone to speaker. So you turn off your microphone and you go, I've got my microphone shut off. Doesn't matter because they can make your speaker a microphone. I'm not kidding. We've got more comments about some of our parasites. So in elementary school, there was that bully, you know, the one who wanted attention, the one who, when he appeared to grow up, would want to be a cop. You know, in the store we have during Black Friday, frequently greedy people would grab that television from someone who had it previously and rip it out of their hands. And there are those who leave their shopping carts wherever they feel like it to roll downhill and crash into anyone's parked car. And then we have these crazy drivers on the road who recklessly drive and put everyone around them in danger. And then we have the hit-and-run drivers who crash into stopped cars. You know, like when we were stopped at a traffic light behind another guy, and a guy just runs right into the back of our Dodge pickup truck. And then we have people who, you know, and they hit and run. And then we have people who hit and run pedestrians crossing the street, just run them over and leave. Okay, well, there's a guy, and I mentioned this previously. There's a guy by the name of Paul Menards. He's a race car driver. He was in the Daytona 500. And he was in the pack, and there's 40 cars in the pack, and these cars are running 200 miles an hour in this oval. And Paul did something that is unacceptable. Paul Menard. Oh, by the way, that's of the Menards store. His daddy is the founder of Menards. So, like father, like son, Paul Menard gets in his race car, and this car's in front of him, and he decides he wants to be in front of them. So instead of using skill and doing it the right way, what he does is what's called hit and run. In NASCAR, it's called bump and run. I guess that's a little more polite, a little more politically correct. So he crashes in from behind to put this guy in front of him into a spin. When that happens, they hit the wall, they spin out of control, they can die. I mean, it can be a fiery crash. It's really serious business. We're going 200 miles an hour round and round and round at just a few feet apart, and this Paul Menard guy decides that he's gonna push his way. And he causes an 18-car pileup in seconds. I'm not talking minutes. I'm not talking during the race. I'm talking in seconds. There was sparks everywhere. Cars even left the ground. He did millions of dollars worth of damage. His response is, quote, "my bad," end quote. So I've come up with this term, and I'd like you to consider using it, class. The term originated here at USA Prepares by me. It's called Menards Syndrome. And what does it mean? It means get out of my way. Me first. I'm a millennial. I deserve happiness, and I deserve to win at any cost. That is the definition of the Menards Syndrome. And I'm seeing it more and more and more and more everywhere I go. Responsibility is not part of Menards Syndrome. Menards Syndrome is the absence of responsibility. It is the epitome of recklessness and carelessness. It's got to stop. And maybe if John Menard hears about this and he realizes that there's a term that is negative about the Menard family because of his son's recklessness, maybe things will change. I will not participate in buying at Menards unless I've got a gun to my head. Menards is that company that says 11% off everything. And you go in there and you buy it, and you buy whatever you choose to buy. You pay for it. You get the receipt. Then you have to fill out an application to get a refund. What happens then is in the mail you get this thing that looks like junk mail, you're likely to throw it out, as I have, by accident, because it looks like junk mail. It's a postcard that's folded in two. And then when you get one of these things, if you haven't thrown it out 6 weeks later, then you can use that to buy something else at Menards. It is a lie. It is not 11% off. It is a credit for your next purchase. Rick, I'd love to hear what your thoughts about that rant that I just went on when we come back. When I talked about the Menards Syndrome, get out of my way, me first, I'm a millennial, I deserve happiness, and I deserve to win at any cost, without consequences. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, richardallenmiller.com. And that's where you can go for the books, and you can learn more about him and his science and his physics. And he's all over YouTube, richardallenmiller.com. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. We've got students on hold. George in New Hampshire, USA Prepares instructor, welcome. You're on with Doc Graham and me.
Hi, Vincent. Hi, Dr. Rick. Just wanted to weigh in quick on two things with Menards. To show you how micromanaged they are, but there's no accountability for them, it appears, is they have a policy that if more than 15 carts are in the parking lot at any given time, there's a $10 fine on each one. And if there's even a hint that there might be a union in the making, I think the managers get a substantial reduction in their salaries, to the point, I believe it might even be up to 60%, but don't quote me on that, but no, it's quite substantial. But I just notice how they don't seem to have any accountability, even when they sold arsenic-tainted mulch. They were fined for it years back. And what I'm saying, in other words, it's just the type that basically there's no accountability. They're billionaires. His son's estranged from him, but I'm surprised, did they bar him from ever being on that racetrack again, or suspend him for any length of time for him endangering the lives of those people, not to mention the probably God knows how much that equipment was worth, too, that got destroyed?
I don't know the answer to, but I heard from one of our students that Danica Patrick, who was a race car driver, she retired. She retired because it was so dangerous with those practices of hit and run on the track. I mean, really, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine how greedy and how me first these Menards Syndrome people are, that they are willing to put everybody's life in danger so that they can win. They can be first. It's wrong. It is really wrong. And I've got to wonder. Now, NASCAR doesn't seem to be taking control of this very dangerous practice, at least as I've learned. And I think that you can carry this forward. You can watch these, we'll call them fans of NASCAR, going to the races, doing the tailgate events, all that kind of stuff. And then they get on the road and they go, well, did you see that guy? He did a bump and run. That was pretty cool. We can do that on the highway. And I think that's what I'm seeing. If you go to YouTube and you look at these videos of these crazy drivers, you will see people running over people that are crossing the street. They'll just crash into them. They'll go over the hood, and then the driver will leave. Now, is it that they didn't hear that big thud? Is that what it was? Were they texting and were oblivious to it? Did they have their radio on and they were oblivious to it? Were they reading the newspaper or putting their makeup on while this all happened? What's going on? I mean, I've seen people on the highway pass me on the right. Now, 2 lanes, I'm talking about the interstate. I'm talking about they go on the shoulder and pass me. Have they lost their minds?
I live in an area where just a few streets over, a couple of years back, there was a young woman. I guess she was involved in some way with this young guy. I think there was something going on, but it wasn't clear. But they had an argument in the morning, and I guess she jumped up on his pickup truck and was on the place where she could hang on, and she was reaching into the window, and he just drove off at speed. Well, he heard a thud, and he kept going. Then he sat down for breakfast afterwards with his grandfather, and come to find out, the poor girl had been run over, and she was left for dead in the road, and she did subsequently die. Well, he shows up into court, near one of the courts here, and he's got a T-shirt on. He's dressed like, basically looks like he's ready to rake leaves, but he's got a T-shirt on that has a saying on it, and they show the picture in the paper very boldly. His contempt for humanity, it says, it's a real contemptuous remark he has. Now, he's going before a judge. There's a girl who died, and it's a serious matter. Well, he gets an attorney who, I have to say, he's the type of attorney you probably want to hire, if you're in some sort of a jam. And he gave me advice one time, and he helped me out on a certain matter. It was it wasn't a serious matter, but he gave me advice. Anyway, so what happens? It comes to trial a year later. He's let off completely, found not at fault at all. And I guess they saw the head of the jury give him a big hug outside in the parking lot. And I guess some of the other jurors looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, they seem to know each other. Well, let's just say it's strange, but in this world I found that the really hardcore SOBs, they seem to have a charmed life, at least on this side of the line. But if I can say this, we'll get off because I know you got other people, and I know, Dr. Rick, and you have ground to cover. Dr. Rick, I got to ask you something. With your connections, I'm surprised you can't help Brother Vincent out here by arranging perhaps for the Men in Black to make a visit to certain and sundry people, or have a UFO do a flyby, or at the very least, Dr. Strange put in an appearance. I think it would go a long way to winning friends and influencing people. What do you think?
I haven't got a clue what costume to wear for that one. Well, I've got this gorilla costume that I use for lap dancing when I'm hanging out with the Chippendales, but my connections. Good luck with that one, man.
Hey, I'm going to sign off, but hey, good talking to you, gentlemen. Take care.
George, it's always great to hear from you.
Great.
Thank you for calling in. Dawn.
What is it? You want a close encounter, Vincent? Is that what you're looking for?
Actually, I think what I need is to lower my blood pressure because
yeah. That I use a mallet. That works pretty good.
Everywhere one of the things that really bothers me, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, is this invasion, these peeping Toms, these parasites, these perverts who think they can look into our homes.
Well, they're trying to blackmail you, and that's the deal. Actually, I came to a conclusion about blackmail when I was 4 years old, growing up in the Philippines, and I would not succumb to a bully. Doesn't matter if I'm going to get hurt. It turns out the bully has more fear, and that's why he does what he does, which means if you do confront him and you do get your lick in, even if you get hurt, he will remember you, and he will fear you. And so I, today, have made a decision with myself that I'm going to try to be a moral man and walk my talk, and if for some reason or way they find a way to leverage me, compromise me, like we got a picture of you masturbating on camera, I don't care. I'm prepared to take them down. I have I'm not ashamed of anything I do. And I make mistakes. And I'm embarrassed sometimes at the mistakes I make. But I will not die the little death of blackmail. The fear of someone getting something on me. That's L. Ron Hubbard. That's Scientology. That's the whole concept of leveraging.
I have a little different concept. those people who are attacking me at the right time, I want to settle the score. That's what I want to do. And Dawn, if you can just hang in for just a second.
Sure.
I'll tell you what I mean. I'm going to go to, so we have this creature. He used to trade by the name of 408 Magenta on YouTube on the Ron Gibson channel. And he would bash me. He would bash pretty much everybody. And so we banned him. And he comes up again 2 days later. And he posts 5 posts yesterday. And he's bashing us some more. But he comes up with the name 408 Magenta Space Magenta. Now, he says, in one of his little bashes, he says, James Corbett is one of your instructors, laughing out loud. Okay? Well, James Corbett is one of our instructors. So here's a guy that's a hit-and-run driver. He's a peeping Tom. And I mentioned the story about Menards, okay? So he says, leave Menard to the authorities concerned. Let them handle Menard. You just focus on your little show and inform us how to prepare. Well, here's my comment about that. There's nobody to call about Menards. Who are you going to call? Nobody is going to tackle Menards. Menards is commerce. They are not on our side. There's nobody to call about Menards and the race car catastrophe that was engineered by Paul Menard. And you just focus on your little show? Well, this happens to be the largest preparedness broadcast in the country. We're the only ones who do this. And then he says, and inform us how to prepare? Well, listen here, 408 Magenta, Space Magenta. When my book is available and when you want the definitive preparedness book, you're going to have to buy it from somebody else because I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm not going to help you prepare. You know who this guy is? This guy is that class bully. He's that class guy that would push everybody around. And then he thinks that it's okay. It's like that gal who joined ISIS and then tries to get people to blow up American cities. And then she says, you know what? I made a mistake. I really want to come back to America. Really? No. Once you do things like this, there are no second chances. Not with me. Not with me after you hit and hit and hit and you hide. So my suggestion for 408 Magenta, Space Magenta, let's give it your best shot. Here's the number to call. 866-582-9933. Give us a call, announce who you are, and let's go round for round in the public forum where you can speak freely, but you better not swear. Dawn will be right back with you, and you've got the floor. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and 408 Magenta says, censors beget censors. If you can't speak or write freely, you are simply not free! ! Well, Torah is not free speech. That is attack. So here at USA Prepares, all of us are volunteers. We're volunteering our expertise, our time, and we don't need this. We really don't need this. And I'm not going to stand by and let some guy, after a couple years of attacking, continue to attack us. So 408 Magenta, Space Magenta, give me a call or send me an email with your phone number and I'll call you. And that's instructor@USA Prepares. Or call in and we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. And we'll shoot it out right here on the air. Dawn, thank you for calling. You're on with Doc Ram.
Oh, Vincent, it's wonderful hearing your voice. Although I don't call in often, I do listen off every time that I can. And also, Doc Ram, greetings. I'm feeling gushy and good, and so I just wanted to share some research I've done, and it parallels slightly with yours. And I was looking at, for a long time, at how the energy converts into the split. And I've mentioned the split light experiment before. That's the experiment where protons are shot through a slit experiment that was conducted. It's easy to Google and look up. I believe it was Princeton. I may need correction on that. But in any event, I've been trying to look at where we go from a pure energy source into a material form, even a subtle material form. Been looking at that since 2000. And Doc Ram and the guests you have, Vince, everybody has helped me in my research. And I think I've come up with, I used to say to people in signing on my emails, frequency first, form follows. Well, I think through some of the trials and tribulations you've all described, actually it was through the negative polarity of the pure energy coming in. Think of it as one, a whole, and then it splits into duality. And I wasn't sure where the form or the manifestation takes place through that energy exchange into form. And I'm not sure about the details yet, but I think I've got a formula that might help us with the human experience. And it goes something like this. I had come up with an idea due to Doc Ram's comic ideas to tell kids. I came up with an idea after listening to him about doing something with the old show, the Hollywood Squares, and have that so all the hosts, I was concerned, my feelings were concern and empathy for so many hosts wanting to talk to the people that are interested, and so many get missed, and there's only one host to like hundreds and hundreds of people, and then you have these detractors. I watched my mom go through this. I've watched other people go through it. Then when I only have people talking truth to me that are on the radio, I'm watching those hosts go through it. So that's kind of where this idea was generated from, that there could be a way to do a Hollywood Squares thing where hosts could have people call in. There'd be like 9 squares. There'd be 9 instructors available. I was thinking along the lines of 12, but 9, whoever's available wants to occupy a square and take questions. And I was, working title was something like Global Question Quest, something along that. Well, before I could develop that in the lab, and I've had a lab since 2000, and the lab in Missouri has been vandalized 4 or 5 times since I came here on emergency in 2003. And I've been watching, avoided it my whole life, but I've been watching the negative of human behavior that I'd never been exposed to. So it drove me into a deep need to know how in the trenches to deal with all this negative energy. So here's the formula I've come up with. Gentlemen, you have stored up yourselves treasures in heaven. You have no idea how much you've helped. You don't know who you've helped. And those that have listened know that you've helped them. And they have questions. So here's the formula I want to give that might help anybody listening. And I hear music.
Yeah, Dawn, you're certainly welcome to continue on the other side of the bottom of the hour news and commercials. So stay with us, please. I'd love to hear the formula. Dawn's got a formula for Dr. Richard Allen Miller, richardallenmiller.com. Dawn, let's hear it.
Oh, great. Thanks. And thank you so much, Vince, for giving me the opportunity to relieve my soul of this study, because I think it might be useful to others only if they hear of it. So basically the study began with looking at the Nazi negative psychology and looking for matches like one was playing a card game of solitaire. That's how I was working. And so what I came up with is that we have all put up treasures for ourselves in heaven. We've all been encouraged by churches, schooling, all kinds of exposures to ideologies and thoughtfulness and mindfulness to give love and to project positive vibes into the environment. And Tesla's shown us with the coil that it's all around us all the time. And so we give. But somehow, where did anybody mention that when we're in necessity to know how to call some of it back in? No mention of it. No formulas about it. So I started experimenting with that. Secondly, I noticed how much attention is in my energy and how much energy is in my attention. So when I got vandalized my lab at a friends of the family's house for the 4th or 5th time on Valentine's Day, and they started receiving harassing calls at 4 in the morning, I jumped in full energy present and say, okay, what can I do to help? And I'm going through looking at this mess and cleaning it up, and that's when the negative energy actually was so bad that I came up with the formula that you give as much energy to this task as is necessary, and then make a conscious effort to cut off your energy to those that are the people that are doing this sort of type of behavior and doing this type of energy, and see if you can withdraw your energy from it to a point where it actually creates a void. So I started experimenting with that. What do you think of the formula so far, Doc Ram?
Well, it's a membrane thing. And when you're giving, you're receiving.
I see.
Two are the same thing.
And if you apply consciousness to actually withdrawing energy or calling in the positive energies to the situation, not in an attack mode whatsoever, but for females it may be different, for males it may be different. I'm just running the formula by you. What do you think?
Well, so when the good Reverend Jackson says, is that fence white or black? The correct answer is yes, because you can only see one side of the fence. And the other side of the fence, you're assuming, is also white. But it may be a lot of different colors. And our vision of what's going on in the physical world, when you feel like you're giving, you are also receiving, because it's a binary kind of thing. And the one is the other, just like God and Satan. God is not polarized with an enemy. Man is what polarizes God. And the idea of giving and seeing yourself as giving something, in fact, you're also receiving.
I
And
agree totally with you, Doc Ram. And so I'm using my consciousness to deal with the negative polarities. I'm looking at this as just energy polarities, not people. How does these energy?
Let me give you a better way of doing it. My daughter used to work in absolutes. Daddy, I hate this. Daddy, I love this. And when she would do that, I would suggest, I'll bet I could find something you hate even more. And so it's a better way of working with preferences rather than absolutes. When you have absolutes, you have limited the playing field.
And I think that's true, but I also feel like we get thrown into absolutes, and then we're stuck in dealing with it, whether we chose it, whether we made the decision prior to our life here that we were going to experience these things, looking at it like a straight experience. I did see some results from withdrawing as much energy from it as I possibly could. I did see that.
Yeah, see, when you start to talk without listening, what's happening is that you're going in a trance state. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't have believed it. And what you need to do is that's why they call it Simran and Bhajan in the Upanishads, where you chant and block everything out, and then you listen for the shouting.
Oh, that definitely is my life. Most of my life is that I go to this very active stillness and deeply listen and get deeper still and listen, and I don't fold myself up like a pretzel or put myself into any kind of situation. I just can do it since childhood, and I've always been able to do it. And when I need distraction, I can shut it off. So
each of us has our own way of doing it. It's uniquely different for each of us.
So is there a formula of energy that one could communicate to others that they can do it too, Doc Ram?
Well, once you're able to project an image for someone's mind's eye, they have it then.
Okay,
it's not
so
about the physics. It's not about the religion. It's about being able to see it. I'm
Just
sorry.
talking about it, you're saying? I'm sorry, Dr. Graham. Did you say just talking about it is doing some good?
Yeah, well, that's because
cool.
when you're talking, you're also the other side of the fence. You're listening. And so it's like you're doing one thing and the other is part of the package. Most people don't realize that it's polarized because of our concept of consciousness, which
I'm
is a
smiling
dream
from ear to ear. That's wonderful news. So there's some body of evidence that supports that this does have merit.
Well, all of it is true. It's because imagination is reality. What you believe is possible is not only possible, you can count on it.
So we can do something to resist and be resilient against negative energy without going on an attack mode. Is that correct? Is that possible?
You're responsible for the thoughts you choose to entertain, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have to take control of your own mind's eye.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm so glad you said that. I can't think of another thing to say other than thank you. Thank you ever so.
Don't go away yet. Don't go away.
Won't.
Dawn, in 1957, Ayn Rand wrote a novel called Atlas Shrugged. And one of the characters in this novel was John Galt.
I'm John Galt.
I know.
I'm John Galt. No, I'm John Galt. No, I'm John Galt.
I think that all of us at USA Prepares are John Galt.
Yeah.
So in the question that is asked in that novel, who is John Galt, it might be thought, who is this guy, John Galt? I think she meant, how many of you are John Galt? And John Galt, there was a term after the book was written called Going Galt, G-A-L-T. And that means that you've recognized that you do not need to justify your life, your wealth, your wherewithal to your neighbors, politicians, bureau rats, society. You don't need to justify any of that. And it means that you can refuse to give them what you know how to do. So, for example, you can withdraw from feeding the machine.
Right. Absolutely accurate there. I've experienced that. I can confirm that's true.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm refusing to feed the machine. So when this jerk who wants to beat us up every single day wants me to help him learn about preparedness, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I want nothing to do with people who think they can beat us up for years and then say, you know what? You don't want us to beat you up anymore, and that's our free speech, and we can trash you any way we want, but would you please help us? They've lost their minds.
Well, I grew up with possibly people like Rick next door to me in Iowa. Lyman sisters would be very similar to, I got a sense of them. And I wanted you to know I got a cheat that some people may not have, and I can feel it. So I can sort of feel if someone's tuned to the truth and compassion frequency or if they're tuned to the other. And I'd like to tell you a little trick that my dad taught me that I think you might find some amusing formula in, even better than the ones I've given so far. May I tell you what he would teach me?
Of course.
He said, Paula, come over here, look at this car I'm washing off. I come over. There'd be a big black thing, a bird with a big white thing in the middle of it. Do you seen that kind of bird poo on your cars, Vince?
Oh, of course. It's it's like the standard, yes.
Yeah. So Dad called me over. I'm a young kid. Calls me over to help him wash the car and says, you see that bird poo there? And I said, yeah. He says, do you know what that white stuff is on top of that bird poo? I said, no. He says, it's more bird poo. So, in other words, what the lesson was is you can get in there dissecting the bird poo or you can get on washing the car.
Yep. And and at the same time, you can go Galt.
Right. That's the kind of stories I learned on, and Doc Ram does them, you do them, and they're very helpful, and I hope that anything I said today was as helpful as I didn't want to follow George. I thought the caller George was fantastic.
I have never met George in person, but I just love him.
I do too.
I really do. And we have exactly the same conversations one-on-one on the telephone when George calls me or I call George. Class, the USA Prepares faculty and students are just the finest I've ever seen, with the exception of one turd, and that would be this magenta guy. Other than that, I think that we would do very well in battle against any other broadcast in terms of knowledge, awareness, honesty, integrity. As a matter of fact, I think we would win. Dawn, thank you so much for being with us today. I just want to let you know that I've posted a link to Gwyneth Isaac's weekly newsletter. It's entitled The Gentleman of Fortune's Weekly News. And it's got a section on the history of crime, criminals, cartels, and the history of those who thought to stop them. So it will be the exposure of corruptions and elements of politics, supernatural, and what you need to know. I have posted it. I'm going to subscribe to that, and you can find that link at usaprepares.com, page number 1. Rick, one last thing before I get your response to what I said about the Menards Syndrome. And there was a guy running for in the primary for the governor of a state. And what happened was, well, let me just read it. It was a crowded primary field at the field, and Tony Evers, running for governor, was eager to win support of the officials gathered at the Washington State Democratic Party meeting. So the candidate did all the usual things. He read the room, shook hands, and networked. Then he put an electronic fence around everyone. This digital electronic fence enabled him to push ads onto the iPhones and Androids of those attending the meeting. Not only that, but because the technology pulled unique identification numbers off the phones, a data broker could use the digital signatures to follow the devices home. Once there, the campaign used so-called cross-device tracking technology to find associated laptops, desktops, and other devices to push more ads. Welcome to the new frontier of campaign tech, a loosely regulated world in which simply downloading a weather app or a game, connecting to a Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, or powering up a home router can allow a data broker to monitor your movements with ease and then compile location information and sell it to a political candidate who can use it to surround you with messages. Add that to all of the other things I said about the Menards Syndrome, the spying, the eavesdropping, the parasites, the perverts, the trolls. Rick, what do you have? What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, this is the valley of the shadow of death. Walking through this jungle and keeping your eye on the ball. What's really important? Distractions abound. That's what advertising is about, to take you away from yourself, make you do something you would not have otherwise done. Impulse buying, just like going through a supermarket, and when you're at the cash register, they have all these quick grab extras.
And you're talking about the high profit items, these little things, $1, $2.
X-rated tabloids, they're all right there. Candy, all right there. It's all the things you don't need that you forgot why you didn't want them in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that article that I just read was from the Los Angeles Times. That would be the old media. The old media is saying that political candidates are now using, they didn't use these words, but the Stingray technology to find out who's in the room. Who's in the room, by putting up a portable, small suitcase device that acts like a cell tower, and all the phones sign into it, and then they can figure out and capture all of those unique IDs, and then they can follow you home and not only get your cell phone, but your computer, and on and on and on, and then track your every movement. So political parasites are doing this, class. So you are surrounded 360 degrees. So if you're in public, you're going to be snooped on, spied on, tracked, photographed, monitored, videoed, and who knows how long this information is going to be stored. Rick, any other comments?
No, I'm good, and I just feel been invaded by something creepy.
We have been invaded, and I think
non-human.
And I think we're going down, Rick, because of the sum of all of our individual greed combined with the sum of all of our individual stupidity. We are allowing this to happen. We are welcoming this into our homes, and we're going to go down. Absolutely, no question in my mind. That, I think, is how it's going to happen. I really believe that. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
RichardAllenMiller.com, class.